This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hey everyone, David here, one of the product leads for Google Gemini. Check out VO3, our state-of-the-art AI video generation model, in the Gemini app, which lets you create high-quality, 8-second videos with native audio generation. Try it with the Google AI Pro plan or get the highest access with the Ultra plan. Sign up at gemini.google to get started and show us what you create.
You think you've probably used an AI agent before, but there's a good chance you haven't. You were probably using an agentic model or an AI-powered workflow. But now that's probably going to change because we've seen big AI tech now usher in real, actual agents. Agents that are capable of completing tasks in a virtual environment, like they have a virtual computer, like an intern, and they can carry out complex tasks, even if you don't give them the best directions, even if you aren't quite sure how the task can be accomplished. So today, we're going to be going over ChatGPT's new agent mode and giving it a little bit of a deeper dive in our special weekly segment called Putting AI to Work on Wednesdays, where once a week, we go over real, actual, and live use cases of AI technology. I show you how I'm using a certain piece of generative AI and encourage you and give you different ways that you can use it too. All right, I'm excited for today's episode as we go over ChatGPT's new agent mode, and I hope you are too. But if you're new here, welcome and what's going on? My name is Jordan Wilson, and welcome to Everyday AI. This is your daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just learn what's happening in the world of AI, but how we can leverage all this information to grow our companies and our careers. It starts here with the realest thing in AI, unscripted, unedited, live stream and podcast, showing you all how it's done. But if you want to be the smartest person in AI in your department or at your company, the cheat code is, ready? Write this down. youreverydayai.com. That's our website. So we're going to be in our free daily newsletter that you need to go sign up for. We're going to be recapping the highlights of today's episode, as well as keeping you up to date with everything else that you need to know in the world of AI. So yeah, if you do want that AI news, make sure to go check the newsletter. So ChatGPT's agent mode has been out now for about 5 days to pro users. All right. So if you're on that $200 a month plan, you've had access now, like myself, for a couple of days. And ChatGPT OpenAI just tweeted out a couple of hours ago, actually, that they've started rolling out this new agent mode to ChatGPT Plus subscribers. And they said the rollout will take a couple of days. So even if you are a $20 a month subscriber, if you look right now, you might not have access. I don't have access in any of my $20 a month plus accounts. But I know the majority of people are on that plan. So that's kind of the biggest question we've been getting is like, hey, I don't see this. Is it broken? Is it not coming out? OpenAI did say they're starting the rollout to those $20 a month plus users, FYI. So in today's show, we're going to give you a hands-on overview of ChatGPT's new agent in their agent mode. We're going to talk about some real-life use cases that I think you'll find valuable. And at the end, we're going to reveal 3 tips that will make ChatGPT agent perform much better each and every time. All right. And we did do a brief recap of ChatGPT's agent mode a couple of hours after it came out on episode 570. So we're not going to be going over all the basics. So if you want to know all the basics, make sure you go listen to last week's episode. That's episode 570. All right. So before we jump in and we're going to do hands-on demos, what could go wrong? I first wanted to zoom out and talk about the broader picture. So OpenAI obviously isn't the only player in this game, but it does look like they're the biggest player to go public first with their agent. or at least their kind of main agent. So Microsoft already has similar technology. They have computer using agents, but it's not quite the same thing. But some Microsoft executives have hinted that they will eventually support ChatGPT's agent mode. So with the Microsoft OpenAI partnership, most of OpenAI's biggest innovations eventually find their way into the Microsoft 365 Copilot ecosystem. So keep that in mind. Google, we've been seeing reports now for a couple of months that Google will be rolling out their agent mode inside Gemini. So that's a little different. They have their whole agentic platform called Agent Space, which hasn't rolled out to a ton of businesses yet, unless you are an enterprise company. But they will be rolling out their broader agent mode inside Gemini as well. And there's plenty, and when I say plenty, there's literally hundreds of other kind of AI agents that do something very similar to what we're going to be going over today in ChatGPT's agent mode, such as Manus, GenSpark, too many to count. I will say this, and I actually had a keynote presentation last night at the Microsoft office here in downtown Chicago. I said this: if you're an enterprise company, you probably shouldn't be using an AI startup. Yeah, they're shiny. Yeah, they look nice. They might do some things better than ChatGPT's agent mode, or when Google's version comes out, or when Microsoft's version comes out. But if you are an enterprise company, I would probably not be putting too much of your long-term or even your mid-term kind of AI strategy behind an AI startup that could go poof overnight. Nothing against these startups. That's just happened over the last 3 years since I've been covering AI technology. So always be cognizant of that. So a real quick hands-on, and for our podcast audience listening, check out your show notes. People always ask, oh, is there a video version of this? Yes, there is. It's on our website, youreverydayai.com. All right. So I'm going to be walking you through, and we're going to be doing a live demo here in a second. But here's the basics. All right. The good thing is this works all inside of ChatGPT. This is essentially combining ChatGPT's operator, which is able to handle more complex websites that require interaction, which is important. All right. And then it also incorporates their deep research mode, which is more of a text crawl where it can go over dozens of different websites at once, as well as computer using capabilities, the ability to create PowerPoints, spreadsheets, all of that. We already did that in an earlier episode, so go listen to the last one. So if you want to use ChatGPT, the good thing is if you want to use agent mode, the good thing is it's inside ChatGPT, which is great because previously, as an example, Operator, OpenAI's first computer using agent, wasn't inside of ChatGPT. It was actually on its own subdomain. So you couldn't work with everything else that ChatGPT had to offer. So the good thing now is you can. So if you are on that Plus account, right, I advise you log out, log back in, check every day or so. And then you'll see under the tools button, you'll see a new agent mode pop up, and it will also tell you how many queries that you have left. So on the $200 a month Pro plan, you have 400 queries. On the Plus plan, you have 40. All right. And then you'll just select agent mode. And then from there, and I'll show you this live, it's going to go ahead and kick up a virtual environment. It can run actions in the terminal, connect to public APIs. It can do literally almost anything. I like to say, this is an intern, right? You can almost do anything an intern could. And then you can obviously, there's some elements of traceability, observability. So you can go back and kind of watch a little video recording after it's done of exactly what the agent did. All right. What could go wrong? Live stream audience, what's up? Let's take a look live. Good morning, Brian. Brian beat me to the live stream. Brian, thank you for showing up. Michelle, good morning. Michael, joining from YouTube. Bria, joining from Chicago, like myself. Marie, good to see you. Everyone else, Rolando, Jose, if you have any questions, get them in now. Cecilia, holding it down for Chicago as well. All right, we're going to look live at agent mode. If you have questions, let me know. Also, live stream audience, if anything goes wrong, right, which stuff does a lot, and I don't want to miss it, just please let me know. All right, so I'm going to be sharing my screen now. All right, so if you can see live stream audience, if you could let me know, I would appreciate it. All right, so I've already started something here, and I'll tell you exactly what I did and why I did it, but I want to get this prompt running first. I don't think it's going to finish in time, but we're going to give it a shot. All right. And actually, I need to upload a file here. All right, y'all. So give me a quick second. I'm going to upload a file. There we go. And I'm going to get agent mode going. All right. So let me describe as this hopefully works and kicks off here. All right. A lot of people are excited for this one. All right. Marie said we can see. Thanks, Marie. All right. So here's what's going on. Here's what I already did. Actually, let me just say the prompt that I put in first, and then I'll explain what I already did in this instance. So I said, I'm giving it some background, simple stuff, nothing crazy. And again, this is my example, putting AI to work on Wednesday. Think of your own example. So I said, I run the Everyday AI podcast. I'm focused on growth. One thing I'm looking at is better understanding and improving my retention. The podcast is hosted on Buzzsprout and distributed to dozens of other platforms. The biggest are Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I've uploaded stats from my Buzzsprout account. So that's the file that I just uploaded. In your web browser, you're logged into my Buzzsprout account as well as my Spotify account and Apple Podcast account. So that's what I just did in the kind of context window up here. I started to get the agent going. Then I clicked take over. Okay, so you can pause and you can take over. So why did I take over for the agent? Well, it has its own virtual computer, and I needed to go log into my Spotify account that has all the podcast stats, and I needed to log into the Apple Podcast account that has all the podcast stats, as well as our Buzzsprout account. So before I started, I took it over. So I did this initially once or twice on Thursday and Friday. So I do, like any good cooking show would, I do have a version of the cake that's already been baked because I also don't want this episode to accidentally go 45 minutes because I know people like Jeremiah are at the gym right now and I don't want to keep you on the elliptical longer than you have to. So I do have this one done already. So we'll give it some time to see if it'll actually go through. And I want to show you guys under the hood exactly how agent mode works. But one of the biggest tips already, right, is go in and log into these services. Yes, you always need to keep, privacy, data security, all of those things in mind. So, if you're dealing with PHI, PII, right? Probably not something that you should go log into. Talk to your leadership team first, right? So if there is a super secure system that you log into via the web and you're like, oh, I'm going to go ahead and give ChatGPT's agent this. Well, can it do it? Yes. Should you? I don't know. Go talk to your people, right? So I'm just getting that precursor out there. So when I'm having ChatGPT log into, it's just a bunch of numbers, right? There's no PII, personal information, health information, credit card information, anything like that. And OpenAI has said and warned everyone, which I appreciate that they did in their live stream. Agents can be dangerous. They can go off the rails, right? This is actually their first model or mode that OpenAI essentially slapped a high-risk label on. Keep that in mind. Again, I'm going to draw this comparison again. This is brand new. These capabilities, again, unless you've been using, one of the better true agent startups, we haven't had this, right? A lot of people are, on LinkedIn and Twitter, they're sharing, custom GPTs or Zapier automations or N8N workflows. And they're saying, look at these agents. Those aren't agents. Those are AI-powered workflows. An agent is literally like an intern who can literally do anything in a good way, but can also do anything in a bad way as well. It has terminal access. It can connect to third-party APIs. It has a browser. It can go do anything that it wants, even things that are outside of your instructions, which again, usually is good because people give very vague directions and sometimes they're asking for a lot. So the agent will have to go and, go down some paths that you didn't think it would travel and neither did it. Right. But this is brand new. This isn't like deep research. This isn't like, ChatGPT's operator mode. This is something else completely. This is literally, I like to say an intern because it's not that great yet. It is a little slow, right? But this is an intern that works 24/7, 365. It doesn't stop, even though it is slow, even though it is a little clunky right now. When it works, it is very capable, and it can create Excel spreadsheets, and it can create PowerPoint presentations as well. So in this prompt, that's all I really did, right? Then I'm asking it specifically what I want. So I told it where to find the retention stats on Apple and Spotify. And then I told it I've made some slight changes to the podcast recently. I want to look at my retention rate essentially from the first couple of weeks of June of last year versus the first couple of weeks of, July of last year versus the first couple of weeks of July from this year. So what this would entail is a ton of manual work, because one thing I don't like about Spotify, and that's our main platform, we're usually like a top 10, top 15 tech podcasts on Spotify. We have, I don't know, like 100,000 or almost 100,000 subscribers on Spotify. That's our big platform. Spotify's stats stink, especially when it comes to retention. So what retention is and what I'm, having operator work for, and let's see, hopefully it's going here. All right, good. Let's see. All right. So unfortunately, let me see. Could you share a spreadsheet? I'm going to say, please try again. All right. We ran into a little bug, and I'm going to say, if Spotify doesn't have that data, look in Apple Podcasts. All right. Again, generative AI, even agent mode is generative. I ran this exact same prompt on Friday. It worked very well. This time it didn't work. Right. And that's a pro and a con of using any generative AI tool, especially agents. So I scrolled down, it ran into a little roadblock. That's okay. But essentially what I'm looking for is I've tried to make some changes to the podcast over the last couple of months. I'm trying to make it a little more concise, even though some episodes like this are a little hard, right? Because I want you guys to really see under the hood. I'm trying to be a little tighter, right, with delivery, not ramble on as much, which is hard for me if you listen to the podcast a lot. Right. I'm trying to do a better job also in the beginning to say, hey, here's what we're going to go over. And then at the end saying, hey, as a recap, here's what we went over. So I'm trying to see if that improves retention. And unfortunately, in Spotify, there's no way to do that just with one metric. I have to individually go into every single podcast, 3 or 4 clicks, and then manually grab those stats. I can't export it. And that's a big thing for me right now running my business. So as you think of your own use cases, and I'm going to give you good use case examples, think of that thing that right now, whether it's a spreadsheet, a PowerPoint presentation, navigating around the web in some platform that you use that's cumbersome. And you're like, man, all I'm doing all day is I'm just clicking a lot. I'm reading a lot of information, and I'm only using my brain for 10% of the time, as an example. Think of those tasks, those mundane tasks. This for me is a very mundane task. We have 560 plus episodes, and to do 3 or 4 clicks in 2 or 3 different platforms over and over and over to try to say, when I do this type of show, are more people listening all the way through, right? If 20,000 people start an episode and only 2,000 people end it, that's bad, right? And then I would have to go in and look at that episode. I don't remember. Oh, this episode had a high retention rate. Let me go back and see what it was. I'm going to have to go back and watch it, look at the transcript, etc. Right? This is a great use case for an agent. It can go, it can juggle the data. It can go and browse a website, unless in this example, when I'm trying to do it and it's doing a terrible job. All right, let's see. I'm going to say, please navigate and find it yourself. How did I know this would happen? It's doing a poor job. Let me try again here, y'all. Let's try from scratch. And then everyone can see exactly how agent mode works. Well, hopefully. All right. So I don't know why we ran into a little hiccup there. So again, I'm going to chatgpt.com. I'm clicking the tools. I'm clicking agent mode. Pasting that prompt in. Hopefully, at least we can get this one working correctly. All right. So now you'll see it says setting up my desktop. Actually, I lied. I did that wrong again. Here I am burning through all my agent mode queries just for you because I forgot to upload my CSV file with all the Buzzsprout information. There we go. we're going to give this one more try. But like I said, worst case is we're going to be able to jump in and look at the results because I've already done this once. But anyways, let me finish exactly what I'm asking for. So I'm asking for retention rates and then by quartile. Hopefully that's how you say it, right? But different podcast platforms, they say, oh, in the first part of your episode, you obviously start with 100% retention rate. And then, in the second kind of quartile, it goes to, 80%, and then it goes to 60%. And to go through this over hundreds of episodes, and then to go back and research why, a certain episode is higher or lower. Maybe I rambled on. Maybe I had a great guest. Maybe I had a not so great guest. Maybe it was a hot trending topic. I don't know. But an agent can go and find those out. And again, I'm telling it to look at the retention rate from the first couple of weeks of July 2024 to compare it to July 2025. Then I'm saying record all the stats and put them in a spreadsheet. Then I'm saying put together a short visual presentation. Please take your time, yada, yada, yada. All right. So let's see. All right. Now at least our live stream audience can see ChatGPT Agent Mode is actually getting to work. You can see it here working live. So now that it's actually working, let's take a very quick 30-second break for a word from our sponsors.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hi, folks. Paige Bailey here from the Google DeepMind DevRel team. For our developers out there, we know there's a constant trade-off between model intelligence, speed, and cost. Gemini 2.5 Flash aims right at that challenge. It's got the speed you expect from Flash, but with upgraded reasoning power. And crucially, we've added controls, like setting thinking budgets, so you can decide how much reasoning to apply, optimizing for latency and costs. So try out Gemini 2.5 Flash at aistudio.google.com and let us know what you build.
All right, so we are back and now looking at Agent Mode Go. So this is great. And FYI, I am now watching this agent work in real time. And if you did use Operator before, you'll notice this is much faster than Operator, right? In kind of the big bump here and why this is extremely exciting and a true agent. A lot of previous computer using agents, the way that they operated is they took essentially screenshots each and every time. And you can see how that would take a long time. This is completely different. This isn't taking a screenshot and then navigating. This has an actual virtual environment, right? That is logged into and stays logged into the services that I log into. All right. It looks like it's having some errors, some Spotify errors, obviously, fun times. All right. But you'll see it's actually working. It's buggy right now, right? And it's probably going to continue to be buggy for a couple of weeks. But luckily, I did run this once or twice, this exact prompt right when it came out. I do know that ChatGPT Plus users on that $20 a month plan are getting access to this. So I do assume that it's going to get hit pretty hard. Luis here asking, good morning from Brazil. How to enable the agent mode in a Plus subscription, unable to see the option here. Different countries, we've had this in our newsletter, and I'll have to check in on this. I do believe different countries have different rollouts, especially if you're in the EU, things might be a little bit delayed. But like I said, the Plus for those $20 a month subscribers, it is slowly rolling out over the next couple of days. I would assume it's going to take at least a week for it to work. But what that does mean for everyone, if you're going to rush and try it out now, it's going to be super buggy, right? Because now it was great from, Thursday when they first announced it, through the weekend. I was doing it on my phone when I'm in the car. I'm using agent mode all the time. But yeah, now that, everyone is getting access, right? Tens of millions of people of Plus subscribers are using it. It's going to get a little buggy. All right, we're going to let this continue to go on. And for our podcast audience, what's happening now is I'm seeing the agent right now is in my Spotify account. It's going through episode by episode, and it's also kind of narrating, right? So it says, I am currently waiting for the episode list to load once it finishes, right? And sometimes you can't even read the whole thing, but essentially as it clicks on things, as a new screen loads, it kind of says what it's doing, what it's thinking, right? And then at any time on this virtual environment, I can go, it's kind of small, but in the upper right-hand corner, there's 3 dots. all the big tech companies do this. I get it. You want to have a nice UI, UX, but we need to make this a little more prominent because most people don't know. All right, so I can click that and then I can choose activity mode. And then activity mode, which is great, it actually has a screenshot. So, as I'm watching the desktop view, I can't always read everything quick enough because it actually moves very fast, right? Compared to operator. It's not taking a screenshot even though it's showing me a screenshot after, but the way it's navigating the web, it has a virtual desktop, it has a virtual browser, it has a virtual terminal. So it can move very quickly, at least compared to operator. So I can go click the activity tab if I want to go back in time and see and verify everything, which you need to be doing with agents, right? I talk about the 1% misalignment issue all the time and how that can be compounding when you're working, especially in a multi-agent system. So you want to be able to go back and trace this and observe it. So you can do that in the that's kind of the the activity mode. And then you can toggle between the activity mode and then the desktop mode. You can click stop at any time, and you can also take over the browser. And the reason why you might want to take over the browser is then to go log into your accounts, right? In this case, I logged into my Buzzsprout, Spotify, and Apple. So it can go and go do a lot of my work for me, right? I do hope that all the other companies take a page out of Google's book. One thing that I love, not in their Google Agent Mode, but in Google's Project Mariner, is it has this like teach and repeat thing, right? So if you have these mundane tasks, it might be hard to kind of prompt engineer your way to it, especially if there's kind of some intricacies and details. So I love that option in Google's Project Mariner, and I hope it rolls out to other platforms as well, where you can essentially record an action that you do, multi-step action, and then Project Mariner can then run it on repeat. So hopefully, ChatGPT and Microsoft and the other big players will have an option like that in the future, because I think what agent mode is good for, it's a lot of those very repetitive, mundane, technical tasks, such as researching, logging into multiple accounts, grabbing data, putting together that data in a presentation, right? And in a spreadsheet. And that's exactly what I'm doing here in this live demo. Live stream audience, if you do have any questions, get them in now. I'm going to go over a couple other things, and then we're going to wrap the show up. So if you have questions, let's talk about it. But let's talk about some real use case examples. The first is a weekly executive dashboard. So this can pull your team's metrics from multiple sources, analyze trends, create formatted slide deck with key insights and recommendations. That can do 4, 8, 10 hours of manual work in minutes. That's another big one. This is something, right? Back when I had, my marketing agency actually up and running, right? We actually still have one client on that side, on the Accelerant agency side. But this was one of our employees' jobs, was to log in, right? We'd have to log into Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Meta, Google Ads, Hotjar, right? Like 5, 10, 15 different services that we were doing a lot of in-depth marketing work for these companies. We had one person that this was their primary job, logging into all of these different systems, because there wasn't a unified way to bring all of this together. They would pull all of this data, put it in a spreadsheet, and then make a presentation out of it. This is literally one of the best real use cases for ChatGPT Agent Mode. Number 2, meeting prep automation. So you can give access to your calendar, your Gmail via the connectors portion as well. So it can access, and that's another thing, right? I uploaded a file. That's one example. You can still use all of the capabilities of ChatGPT, including its connectors, its integration, right? So you don't even have to do every single thing by uploading files or navigating to a web. You can use the connectors and integrators as well. But one is meeting prep automation. This can read your calendar. It can research attendees companies for recent news, pull relevant project files, and create talking points brief. This is another thing that I do a lot, right? A company reaches out and they're like, hey, Jordan, we want you to train 5,000 of our employees on ChatGPT, right? So literally the first thing I do is, who's ever on that email, I'll usually manually research them because I want to know a little bit about what they do in their role. I'll research the company. I'll research recent news, right? So then when I sit down, I'll research some of their competitors. I'll research trends in their industry. So when I sit down with someone and they're like, hey, because it's not cheap, and they're like, we want you to do a huge training for us. So I'm not unprepared. I've had to, up until recently, I've had to do all this work manually. That's another great task that you can just have this new ChatGPT Agent Mode do for you. Another one, vendor research and RFP response. The other thing, which I didn't really talk about, this has a virtual computer, which means it can not only click, it can fill out forms, right? Yes, there is still, you got to have the expertise driving the loop. And there is some risk to giving an agent the ability to submit information that is important on forms. But maybe it's not super important, or maybe there's RFPs that you and your team just don't have time to submit to. And you're like, man, this is manual work, right? There has to be a better way. Well, here you go. Maybe you should be taking the most important RFPs, but maybe you want to give ChatGPT's Agent Mode a try. So you can find qualified vendors, compare pricing and features across different websites. Excuse me, y'all. Sorry, I'm still sick. I've had a weird cough for a week. So sorry if I'm a little horsey and still nastily coughing into the mic every once in a while, but you can go compare pricing and features across 10 plus websites, fill out initial inquiry forms, and create comparison spreadsheets with recommendations. One more use case, CRM data enrichment automation. Everyone could be doing something like this, right? So this is something, if you have a lead list, all right, hey, here's warm leads, or maybe your company, maybe you're doing outbound sales, you're business development rep, you're a sales development rep, and you have a lead list or an account list, and then you have to go manually do a bunch of research and update a CRM. All right, well, I don't know, give that to ChatGPT Agent Mode. Again, make sure you go through the proper data protocols, privacy, security, all that, right? So, but if your powers that be say it's okay, I would do it, right? Observe it. Don't have it, work on your most important accounts or do your entire job at first. Give it a small task like I just did, right first. But this, you can take your lead list, research each company across LinkedIn websites, log that data into a CRM. Yes, it can type, it can save information, and then populate missing fields with current data. Again, this can turn weeks of manual data entry into hours of work with a real agent. All right, here we go. And if you do have any more questions, y'all, please get them in now. I'll try to, if you do have any questions, answer them at the end. It can just be my opinion on something. What should I use it for, right? If you have questions, get them in. But I now want to go over 3 tips to make ChatGPT's Agent Mode perform much better each time. Tip number 1, hands on the wheel. You saw an example of this. I showed you. Take over the browser control. A lot of people aren't doing this because they don't know, right? Because it's that little, user interface, user experience thing. If you watch OpenAI's live stream, you obviously know you can take it over, but a lot of people don't know. Click that takeover button. It's a browser, right? It's based, I believe, on Chromium. So you can open new tabs. You have to enable copy and paste. But once you do that, you can enable copy and paste. And for the most part, I've logged into probably 10, 15 different websites. It seems to follow the exact same login state as it would on your local machine, which is really cool, right? So it's not like if you shut down your browser and you go back the next day, you're going to have to re-log into everything, right? There's certain pieces of software that I use that just kind of stay logged in for, I don't know, a couple days, a week. Then there are certain pieces of software I use that you have to re-log in every time. What I've seen inside ChatGPT Agent Mode in the login state, it kind of follows what it does. So it's almost like you have a dedicated Chrome environment that saves your login state, which again, keep privacy in mind. All right. But then the other thing, when I'm talking about hands on the wheel, is you can just start chatting with the agent, which is much different, right? Because if you're in previously, if you were in operator mode or deep research, you can't really interrupt. The great thing about the agent, just like an intern, you can stop over and you can say, hey, actually, I told you the wrong date. And I know you're, 5 minutes, 10 minutes into your research, but I want you to just pick up right where you left off, and then go back and if you made any mistakes on this date that I gave you, update that accordingly. That's great. It doesn't stop the process. It will, maybe you just are adding more details and you're like, oh, I actually, hey, in addition to retention rate, I want you to give me a country by country breakdown, right? Or maybe you did give it wrong information as you're observing, and then you wanted to go back and just update, one of the 5 different fields that you told it. So that's the other thing. You can just start chatting, which let me just go ahead and show our live stream audience this, because like you actually wouldn't know, right? Because if you're looking at my screen, if you use ChatGPT a lot, in the input box, it just has this stop sign, right? And so you're probably like, oh, there's not an arrow, so I can't talk to the agent. So once I click and start typing, and I say, oh, like, actually, update the countries as well. I'm not going to do this, right? But then I can click the send button. So a lot of people don't know that you can actually go in the middle of your agent's work and update, modify, give new directions, etc. And you need to look, like I showed you, need to look at the activity log and the desktop so you can better understand. You really need to have hands on the wheel. Tip number 2, use the context, right? Use the context window of ChatGPT, upload your files, use the data and integrations, right? Use your connectors like Canva, Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Outlook, email, etc. This is the big plus side, that it is inside of ChatGPT and not on its own, subdomain like operator, .chatgpt.com or sora.com. It is inside ChatGPT. So you really need to use the context window of ChatGPT to its fullest advantage. Upload your files, use connectors, etc. Don't start typing, right? First, have a conversation with the agent. Although the agent is very slow, right? Think like you're using a specialized version, I believe, of O3. So it's slow, right? So if you just say like, hey, I have this task for you. What do you think? Ask me questions. It's not going to get back to you in, 5 seconds. It might take 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. However, over the long run, especially if you're going to be doing a repeating task, I actually think it's worth it first to have a conversation. And then tip 3, you need to fine tune repetitive agent runs. Okay, so again, that's what I advise you to do. Don't just do something that you would do once, right? What is that one manual repetitive process that you do every single day, that you do every single week, that there's really no other way to automate with AI, right? And this is where this combination of deep research, operator, having a virtual desktop, a virtual browser, command line tool, the ability to create files, this is where it comes in really handy, because it can do a lot of different tasks and keep that context across multiple domains, multiple programs, and create something of business value. So you should be breaking out your most repetitive manual tasks, either daily or weekly. The very first time you do it, don't stop at midway, right? Just observe. All right. The second run, change nothing and take notes. And then on your third run, that's when you should start iterating, right? Oh, halfway through, interrupt it. So that's what especially if you haven't done this before, first run, just sit back and watch it. All right. Even if you're like, oh, I did something wrong, I could have made it better. Second run, just take notes. Manual. Yeah, I know that sounds scary. And then your third run, start iterating on the prompts or the inputs. All right. So that's a wrap, but let's go in like any cooking show should, and see if it actually finished. So you'll see here, fortunately, unfortunately, this one's still running, right? Which means after some of those earlier hiccups, it's actually working now. So I had a feeling demo demons got me again. And obviously this is rolling out to now tens of millions of new users. So keep that in mind. Don't try this once this week and be like, it stinks, I'm never using it again. It's going to get crushed. OpenAI's GPUs are going to melt. Make sure, check back next week, the week after. Demand will cool down. I'm sure OpenAI will throw more resources behind this. So this version didn't finish. No worries. All right. So now I'm showing a finished version, and you'll see here it has the podcast retention stats.csv, and I can download that. and open it as well. All right. There we go. So I know you can't see this because I'm only sharing the browser, but I will, let's see here. I will just take a quick screenshot so you all can see it did the work, and pretty impressive. All right. So here is our retention screenshot. I literally just downloaded the file, screenshotted it, uploaded it to the cloud. So here we go. Median consumption, the ratio of the median versus the duration, the first quartile, second quartile, third quartile, completion percentage, right? It did a great job, right? And then I can go back in, and it also created a nice PowerPoint presentation that I can download and modify as well. Including it has some graphs, some explanations, right? Some tables, some comparisons. Again, it's not the most beautiful, chart in the world, but it's pretty, PowerPoint presentation, but it did the job, right? I think a lot of the other AI agents out there create better looking PowerPoints, but I'm guessing that OpenAI will continue to improve this. All right. So, couple quick takeaways, some pros and cons, right? It can be slow, right? Especially if you've used other agents, or if you've never used an agent before and you're expecting it to go as fast as you might say this is slow. You might say this is fast, all right? So that's a con. It's not as fast as some of the other AI agents out there. From a presentation standpoint, it doesn't create the most beautiful PowerPoints, right? Whereas other AI agents actually create really good looking PowerPoints. So there's some cons, but some pros. I mean, ChatGPT Agent Mode does great handling complex research, data analysis, and across multiple domains, right? Finding information that's hard to find, right? Logging into your systems, right? It can apply filters, select things from drop downs, right? It can do complex research, data entry, and file creation tasks just like an intern would. So if you have that mentality, this isn't going to replace your work. All right. This is the first version, right? Like, the way I talk about it is, remember, like, the first version of ChatGPT, it wasn't good. It wasn't good. The first version of Google Bard, the first version of Microsoft Code, right? The first version of anything, when you look back at it, not that good, right? So keep that in mind. This is a brand new actual employee, right? Whereas before, when we're talking about, AI, and even as these models become more capable, more agentic, right? When we're talking about automating manual work, we're usually talking about chunks, right? Hey, it can't do a whole project front to back, but if you break that project into 5, 6, 7 different chunks, then it can take different pieces of this project. This is the first time that we've had from the big players a publicly available agent that can do the whole project. You have to be a little patient. You have to learn, right? And you have to understand how this thing works. But overall, it's impressive. All right. Let's see here. Couple questions. Let's go ahead and knock some out. All right. Let's see. Someone asking, is Agent out for Plus users? It started rolling out yesterday. I'm guessing it'll be done by the end of the week. Again, check your country to see if you have availability. Another question here from the YouTube machine. For PowerPoint presentations, isn't Gamma or Presenti the software to use? Yeah, I mean, Gamma makes better presentations visually, but as an example, what I just had it do, it can't do that. Gamma, Presenti, right, can't go log into all of my websites. It can't go do the research, right? So if you already have text ready to go into a presentation, if you're only looking at creating a presentation, right, as that one bite-sized task, I don't think that agent mode is the best for that one thing, but it's great at being able to go find the information, research across multiple domains, do things that are computationally challenging, and put it all together for you in one shot. So if you're only looking for a presentation, if you're just looking for something to create a PowerPoint for you, there's better tools out there. And then another question, how would AI agents work for truck drivers? Well, I'm not quite sure. But think of whatever, manual work the truck driver may have to do in front of a computer. That's the other thing. When you think of what can agent mode or future agent modes from Microsoft, Google, etc., what can it do for you? Think, what do you spend so much time on sitting in front of a computer and manually doing? What are those repetitive tasks? All right. So I hope today's show was helpful. We gave a more in-depth, hands-on overview of ChatGPT's agent mode, gave you some real use cases, both my own, going over it live, and 4 different example use cases, as well as giving you 3 worthwhile tips on how to get the most out of ChatGPT agent mode. All right, so I hope this was helpful. If you want to see more on ChatGPT agent mode, let me know. Again, we did go over another episode going over the basics. So if you just listened to this one and it was a little too advanced, or if you have more questions, make sure to go back and listen to that episode from last week. Was this helpful? If so, if you're listening on the podcast, please subscribe to the show, leave us a rating. I'd really appreciate that. If you want to share this, I'd even like that more, right? A lot of people are like, hey, Jordan, I heard from someone last night when I was doing this keynote for Chicago Tech Week that said, hey, I've been sharing your podcast with all my coworkers, family, and friends. I appreciate it. Man, my heart was very warm in that instance. So please, if this was helpful, we put a lot of time to demystifying all of these AI advancements in tech. Even when I'm a little sick, right? Even when I don't feel good, I know that you all out there are looking for a reliable source of unbiased information on how to use these tech tools. So if you could share this with your network, I'd appreciate it. Also, go to youreverydayai.com, sign up for the free daily newsletter. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you back tomorrow and every day for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
This podcast is supported by Google. Hey everyone, David here, one of the product leads for Google Gemini. If you dream it and describe it, VO3 in Gemini can help you bring it to life as a video. Now with incredible sound effects, background noise, and even dialogue. Try it with the Google AI Pro plan or get the highest access with the Ultra plan. Sign up at gemini.google to get started and show us what you create.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.